There's a new Netflix adaptation of Lord of the Flies, and it's actually pretty good. I love the soundtrack, I love the acting, the atmosphere. There's so much about it that works. But there's one thing that happens at the end of episode 3 that really ruins the entire point of Golding's message from the original novel. So, what is that scene? Before we even get into it, I want to talk about what the actual point of the story is. I've been teaching this book for nearly 10 years, and the thing I try to hammer home the most to my students is that, it's Golding's message that there is darkness inside of man's heart, that essentially we are capable of committing evil acts. Everybody, ordinary people, are capable of doing horrible things. That's the thesis of this novel. So his point wasn't that some people are bad, some people are evil and can do bad things. His point is that every single one of us is capable of doing bad things. And so Simon's death scene completely changes that idea. So in the book, I'm going to set the scene for you. In the book, the boys are having their second feast and they're dancing and going crazy on the beach, and it's starting to rain and it's starting to thunder. The storm is coming. Now, at the same time, Simon is making his way down through the jungle to the beach because he passed out in the jungle earlier in the chapter after talking to the Lord of the Flies, and he realizes that the beast is not actually a beast, but it's a dead parachuter. And so he's coming back to tell the boys about his discovery. Well, he's crawling through the dark jungle, and one of the boys points at him and shouts, "That's the beast." And so, unfortunately, the boys they crunch around him. The book describes it as a horseshoe. There's an inner circle or an inner horseshoe that folds into a circle, and then there's an outer one as well. And so the inner one is killing Simon. They think he's the beast. They're caught up in this mass hysteria, and it's really disturbing. It's actually a lot worse than how the Netflix show makes it out to be. But it describes the boys as, they're biting him, they're tearing him apart, they're ripping at him, they're stabbing him. They're destroying this young kid. So that's the inner circle. And the outer circle may not be actively, stabbing Simon, but they're cheering it on. They're in the background doing a crazy dance and freaking out, and they're still part of this whole thing. There's not one boy who's decided to sit this one out, is what I'm trying to say. Unfortunately, the Netflix show completely changes this. So there's a moment where Ralph, actually in the midst of this dance, when Jack's tribe is going crazy, he says, "This is a bad tribe for bad people." That line alone goes against the entire message. It's a bad tribe for bad people. Golding's message is that we're all bad people. That's why that's so frustrating. So, Ralph actually kind of sets himself apart from Jack's tribe, when in reality, that's the point. None of them are set apart from each other. They're all equally culpable and capable. So, in the Netflix show, Ralph, he takes Piggy, and Piggy and him don't participate in the killing, and some of the other boys don't participate. It's mostly Jack and like his hunters are the ones that do it, but it's just so frustrating. I mean, it's especially frustrating because, again, it's really well made, and I really like it. I've been thinking about it a lot. It's stuck with me since I've finished watching it, but changing this message now, it just ruins the entire point of the story. That's what happens. He says that line, and then literally him and Piggy and some other boys don't participate in the murder. And so now you're left with this message of, okay, well, some people are bad and they can commit some bad things or evil things. They can commit murder, but not us. There's some people who are actually good. There's some people who are morally superior to others. But that's not Golding's point. Now, another change they make is what happens directly after. It's the next morning, and I'll tell you what goes on in the book first. But in the book, basically, Piggy and Ralph are sitting there on the beach. It's just them, some little uns, and Sam and Eric. Everybody else has joined Jack's tribe after the killing of Simon. And so Ralph wants to talk about the death of Simon with Piggy. And you know what Piggy does? Piggy rationalizes the murder. He actually goes so far as to blame Simon for his own murder. He says that he shouldn't have been crawling around in the dark, that he was always a bit batty, always a bit crazy. So he's actually kind of like victim blaming Simon for his own murder. That's what Piggy does. And so when he does this, when he can't admit that what they did together was murder, Ralph breaks down. Ralph says, "Oh, Piggy," and he cradles the conch between his legs, and he's rocking back and forth, and he's just distraught by this because if Piggy can rationalize the murder, then what chance do they have on this island? Truly, it's all falling apart. Um, so it's just it hits really hard, and that moment's important because Ralph is our protagonist. Ralph is our hero. He's the one that has to learn this lesson, even though he's not necessarily going to save the day. He obviously didn't prevent Simon's death, and he participated in it. He's still our hero. He's still the person that we're following, and we have to see his transformation. This is a very important part of his transformation, and without this scene, the final page of the novel makes no sense. Um, there was something else I was going to say about Ralph and Piggy, um, but I don't know. It seemed to it's flown away like a little bird. It's left my mind. Uh, but I will tell you what happens in the Netflix adaptation. In the Netflix adaptation, it's a really weird change, by the way. They swap what Ralph and Piggy say in this scene. So in the Netflix show, the next day after Simon is killed, Ralph and Piggy are talking just like they are in the book, which, by the way, shouldn't even be a scene. That scene only makes sense if everybody has participated and you get that shame factor of, oh my gosh, what did we do last night? But again, Ralph and Piggy in the Netflix show did not participate in the killing. So they're sitting there and having the same conversation, but it doesn't make sense because they didn't participate in the killing. Anyway, that scene, they swap what they say. So now in the Netflix show, it's Piggy who's the one who actually says, "Hey, that was murder. They killed Simon." And Ralph is the one who justifies the murder. He does what Piggy does in the novel, which again makes no sense. Ralph is supposed to be our hero. This is a pivotal moment for his transformation this far into the show, because this is the beginning of episode 4, the last episode. This far into the show, we have seen zero development for Ralph, which is just a real shame. The final thing I'll talk about, the final change really comes in the last sequence of the show, and it's from the last chapter of the book, and it completely, again, changes this idea that Ralph has to resort to savagery in order to survive. So after Jack and his cronies kill Piggy, Ralph is now running away. He's running through the jungle, trying to hide, trying to survive, because obviously Jack and his hunters and everybody else, all the other boys on the island, are hunting Ralph. They're trying to kill him actively. So this is a fight for his life. It's a life or death situation. And this is the book we're talking about, by the way. And on his journey through the jungle, Ralph he encounters the Lord of the Flies, which again is the pig head on a stick. Only now the pig head has no flesh on it. It's all been eaten by bugs or animals, and it's just this very shocking solid white bone resting on the stick, or the double pointed spear. And so what's so fascinating about this, and this is how Golding understood his message very clearly and he understood his characters very clearly, is that he has Ralph take the spear from the Lord of the Flies, from the pig head on a stick. He takes the spear, and this is what he uses as a weapon to defend himself in the final sequence of the novel. It shows that now even Ralph, being aware of the evil of inside all of our own hearts, he has to actually be the one to almost tame it and use it for survival. So he grabs that spear, and actually there's a part where he does stab one of the other boys, and we don't know, the book doesn't tell us which boy he stabs, because he's hiding in the bush and he stabs right through it, and he kills, well, he doesn't kill, we don't know if he kills the other boy, but he stabs another boy. Could have been a little kid, Could have been one of the bigger kids. We don't know. But that's how far he's willing to go to survive. Um, and this part is just crazy. So in the book, he's running for his life, and he doesn't give up. He keeps on running, and he's just running and fighting until the end of his life, until they get him and they kill him. He's not going to survive. The only reason he survives is because the Navy officer actually is there on the beach. But if he wasn't there, Ralph would have been killed. But the point is, he wouldn't have given up. The Netflix show changes this so dramatically. The final sequence, they don't have Ralph do this. They don't have him find the Lord of the Flies. They don't have him grab a spear to defend himself. He just does what he does, Um, and actually, this part is, I think, one of the worst changes as well. And it's like the last real one is that Ralph literally, there's a part, I think it's about a minute or two long right at the end, where he literally is walking around the jungle and goes, "All right, Jack, I give up. Jack, I give up. I give up, Jack." He keeps saying it over and over again. I just can't believe that they included that. It makes me think that they didn't understand the point of the book at all, which is weird because when you look at the behind the scenes documentary that they made too, there's a part where one of the creators says that, he knows that the point of this whole story is that the beast is inside all of us. So I don't know how they completely messed this up. These changes, again, these are not insignificant changes. These are not things that you could just do surface level. These are deep changes. It's like if you, took out the engine of a car and tried to put in a different car's engine. Maybe you can get it to run. I don't know. I don't really know much about cars, but I imagine there'd be some problems. And as we can tell with this story, there's a lot of problems. Because to wrap this up, Golding's message was not that some people are evil, some people are bad and do bad things. His point was that everybody is capable of it, even kids, even you, even me. Once you remove that idea, you haven't just messed with the plot or the characters, you've changed what the story means.